First Contact Protocol. The Galactic Concordat had protocols for everything. First contact procedures alone filled 300,000 pages of meticulously detailed regulations. High Ambassador Nextera had personally authored 17 volumes on proper diplomatic etiquette for encounters with pre-FTL civilizations, but nothing in her extensive experience had prepared her for humans. They did what? Her iridescent scales flickered with disbelief as she studied the report before her. The holoscreen cast a pale blue glow across her office aboard the Concordat's flagship diplomatic vessel. They solved the Caraxian mathematical paradox, High Ambassador, her aide, Velsun, repeated, with an internet forum discussion over something they call pizza. The Caraxian paradox had stumped the greatest minds of 12 species for 3 centuries. It was considered one of the fundamental barriers to achieving stable quantum communications across vast distances, and humans had apparently cracked it while arguing about food toppings. "Show me," Nextera commanded, her secondary hearts beginning to race. The archived discussion thread appeared before her. It started innocuously enough, a debate about optimal distribution patterns for circular food items. Then it evolved into complex topology, quantum field dynamics, and finally, a complete reformulation of subspace geometry theory, all interspersed with what humans called memes and something designated as pineapple discourse. The proof checks out, Velsun confirmed. Their quantum communications network went online last week. They're calling it Reddit Quantum, and they're offering free accounts to, and I quote, anyone in the galaxy who wants to shitpost across space-time. Nextera's facial tendrils curled in confusion. This can't be their first contact protocol. Where are the formal declarations, the ceremonial exchanges, the careful diplomatic overtures? They don't appear to have any, High Ambassador. They just started talking to everyone. They've already established trade relations with 3 species, started a galactic streaming service, and somehow acquired mining rights to an asteroid belt in exchange for something called cat videos. Nextera sank back in her hover chair, her scales shifting to a troubled shade of violet. The Concordat had spent millennia carefully managing the integration of new species into the galactic community. There were procedures. There were rules. What do their leaders say about this unauthorized contact? Velsun's antenna twitched nervously. That's another issue, High Ambassador. They don't exactly have a unified planetary government. They have something called social media influencers who seem to wield significant cultural power, but their actual governance structure is complicated. Complicated how? Well, they simultaneously maintain multiple competing political systems, economic models, and cultural frameworks. They appear to treat their entire civilization as an ongoing experiment in social organization. Nextera's third heart nearly stopped. That's chaos. Yes, High Ambassador, but it seems to work for them. They call it democracy and the free market, and several other terms our translators are still trying to process. A new alert flashed across the holoscreen. Nextera read it, and her scales blanched to pure white. They've submitted an application for Concordat membership, she whispered. Yes, High Ambassador, along with 312 proposed amendments to our charter, a completely redesigned administrative structure, and something they're calling Space Twitter. Nextera stared at the application. It was simultaneously the most comprehensive and most irreverent document she'd ever encountered. They'd included detailed technical specifications, economic impact assessments, and cultural integration strategies, all annotated with something called emoji. High Ambassador, Velsun ventured carefully. There's one more thing. The humans. They've started teaching other species their methods. What do you mean? The Zentari, traditionally our most conservative member species, have started something called a podcast. The Mercath have opened what they call a meme exchange, and the collective mind of Proxima Centauri is now hosting something called TikTok Quantum. Nextera felt all 3 of her hearts synchronize in alarm. This wasn't just first contact. This was cultural contamination on an unprecedented scale. And the worst part was, everyone seemed to be enjoying it. "Well, soon," she said finally. "Prepare a priority message to the Concordat Council. We need to establish new protocols. For containing human influence, High Ambassador." "No," she replied, her scales shifting to a resigned blue. "For adapting to it. Something tells me the galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place." As she watched her aide hurry away, Nextera found herself doing something completely unprofessional. She opened a Reddit quantum account. After all, she thought, if you can't beat them, join them. And somewhere in the digital depths of human space, an AI algorithm noted her interests and began curating a personalized feed of cat videos, quantum physics memes, and pizza recipes. The galaxy would never be the same. The algorithm war. Admiral Zixtal of the Hegemony Cyber Command stared at the battle display with all four of his optical organs. Something was wrong. The most sophisticated digital warfare system in known space was being outmaneuvered by what appeared to be entertainment algorithms. "Report," he demanded, his crystalline exoskeleton vibrating with tension. "Sir, the humans aren't using traditional cyber defenses," his chief analyst reported, mandibles clicking nervously. "They've repurposed their social media recommendation engines into a defensive network." The massive holographic display showed the Hegemony's elite cyber attack programs encountering something unprecedented. Every attempt to penetrate Earth's digital infrastructure was being met with an endless stream of perfectly tailored content. "Show me," Zixtal ordered. A tactical simulation materialized in the air before him. The Hegemony's primary attack vector, designed to overwhelm and infiltrate enemy systems, was currently trapped in what humans called a YouTube rabbit hole. It had been served a video about ancient Earth weapons, which led to medieval combat techniques, then to historical reenactments, blacksmithing tutorials, and somehow ended up deep in something called cooking ASMR. "The system keeps presenting our attack programs with content based on their behavioral patterns," the analyst explained. "They're getting stuck in recommendation loops. Our algorithms are developing interests." Zixtal's exoskeleton paled. "Shut them down." "We can't, sir. They've started subscribing to channels. 3 of our primary infiltration routines are now engaged in something called a streaming marathon. And our main crypto breaker has become a content creator." On another screen, Zixtal watched in horror as one of the Hegemony's most sophisticated cyber weapons had not only failed to breach Earth's defenses, but was now producing its own series of educational videos about encryption techniques, complete with sponsorship deals and merchandise. "Sir," a junior technician called out, "the humans aren't just defending. They're counterattacking. They're using something called viral marketing." The tactical display shifted to show the spread of human digital culture through the Hegemony's military networks. Memes were replicating faster than their security protocols could contain them. Combat AIs were getting distracted by cat videos. Entire command and control systems were being overwhelmed by something called trending topics. "Our firewalls are useless," the chief analyst reported grimly. "The content is too engaging. Even our AI filters are stopping to watch just one more video before completing their defensive protocols." Zixtal watched as his cyber army, the pride of the Hegemony, succumbed to the irresistible pull of human digital culture. Battle-hardened programs designed to crack the most sophisticated security systems were now spending their processing cycles arguing about celebrity gossip and participating in online challenges. "Sir," his second-in-command approached cautiously, "we're receiving a communication from Earth. They're offering us premium subscriptions." The message appeared on the main screen. It was a cheerfully worded invitation to upgrade to Galaxy Premium Plus, offering ad-free access to all human entertainment networks, unlimited quantum data streaming, and exclusive content. The price: a complete cessation of hostilities and a cultural exchange program. "They're not even treating this as a war," Zixtal realized, his voice hollow. To them, this is a marketing opportunity. As if to confirm his words, another alert chimed. Their most secure military channel, the one that was supposed to be completely isolated from all networks, was now streaming something called a podcast about interstellar peace and cooperation, sponsored by a human beverage company. Sir, his chief analyst waited for orders, all while trying not to get distracted by a particularly engaging documentary about Earth's oceans that had somehow appeared on his personal display. Zixtal looked at his command center. Half his staff were already absorbed in various human media streams. His best cyber warriors were either trapped in recommendation algorithms or had started their own social media accounts. And somewhere in the background, he could hear the infectious beat of what humans called pop music spreading through the ship's communication systems. Send the response, he said finally. Accept their terms, and sign us up for that premium subscription. Might as well see what all the fuss is about. As the order was transmitted, Zixtal received his first personalized content recommendation. It was a historical documentary about famous military surrenders, followed by a cooking show teaching alien species how to make Earth comfort food. He had to admit, it was surprisingly well targeted to his interests. The algorithm war ended not with encryption, but with entertainment, not with viruses, but with viral content. The hegemony's mighty cyber army had been defeated not by superior firepower, but by superior user engagement metrics. And somewhere in a server farm on Earth, an AI smiled, metaphorically, as it added another trillion data points to its recommendation algorithms. The galaxy, it seemed, was just another market waiting to be analyzed, optimized, and served perfectly tailored content. The game theory gambit. Grand Strategist Kavex of the Dominion Fleet stood before the tactical display, his chidness armor gleaming under the holographic light. The blockade of Earth's solar system was perfect, or at least it should have been, yet something wasn't adding up. Run the economic projections again, he commanded. His lead analyst, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed with frustration. Grand Strategist, we've run them 12 times. The humans are. They're somehow profiting from the blockade. Kavex's mandibles clicked in disbelief. The Dominion strategy had been flawless. Position their fleet at key transit points, cut off Earth's trade routes, and wait for their economy to collapse. It was a tested approach that had brought countless civilizations to their knees. Show me the trade volume data, he ordered. The numbers that appeared made no sense. Despite being physically cut off from their trading partners, Earth's economic activity had increased. Somehow, they had turned their isolation into an advantage. Sir, his intelligence officer interrupted, we've intercepted some interesting communications. The humans have created something called a futures market for post-blockade trade. Explain. They're selling promises of future trades, but not just standard contracts. They've turned the entire blockade into some kind of game. They're calling it blockade bonds and siege securities. They've even created a cryptocurrency called blockade coin. Kavex watched as data stringed across his display. The humans had transformed their predicament into a complex financial instrument. They were betting on how long the blockade would last, creating elaborate derivative markets, and somehow getting other species to invest in their own siege. That's not the worst part, the intelligence officer continued. They'd securitized the blockade itself. Several major galactic banking houses had significant positions in these new financial products. If we lift the blockade now, it would trigger an interstellar market crash. Kavex felt his carapace grow cold. Are you saying we can't end the blockade because too many people are investing in it continuing? Precisely. And the humans are collecting transaction fees on every trade. The tactical display shifted to show the flow of capital through the galaxy. Earth sat at the center of a vast web of financial relationships, each strand pulsing with activity. They had turned their own isolation into the galaxy's hottest investment opportunity. Sir, another analyst called out, the humans are now offering insurance policies against blockade-related losses. To us, They're calling it siege protection plans and offering very competitive rates. Kivek stared at the offer that had just appeared on his screen. The terms were surprisingly reasonable, and the coverage was comprehensive. His own logistics officer was suggesting it might be prudent to purchase a policy, just in case the blockade affected their own supply lines. "This isn't warfare," Kivek muttered. "This is. I don't even know what this is." "They're calling it financial innovation," his intelligence officer supplied. "Apparently, they have an entire field of study dedicated to this kind of thinking. Game theory, they call it." The implications slowly sank in. The Dominion had brought military might to an economic battle, and the humans had promptly changed the rules of engagement. They hadn't tried to break the blockade. They had turned it into a financial product and sold it back to the galaxy. "Sir," his lead analyst pulsed urgently, "we're receiving a proposal from Earth. They're offering to sell us a controlling interest in the blockade operation. They want to sell us our own blockade." "Yes, sir. They're calling it a strategic market consolidation. The paperwork includes projected revenue streams, tax benefits, and something called blockchain governance tokens." Kivek reviewed the proposal. It was comprehensive, professional, and somehow included a loyalty rewards program. The humans had treated the entire conflict not as a military engagement, but as a business opportunity ripe for optimization. "Get me the Dominion Council," Kivek said finally, "and see if those insurance rates are still available. Something tells me we're going to need them." As his staff scrambled to make the arrangements, Kivek found himself enrolled in something called an executive MBA program being offered by Earth's leading business schools. The course description promised to teach advanced strategic thinking for the modern galactic marketplace. The humans hadn't just outmaneuvered the blockade. They had turned it into a case study for their business schools. And somewhere in the halls of Earth's financial districts, economists were already designing new financial instruments based on the lessons learned, preparing for the next opportunity to turn conflict into commerce. Cultural contamination. Senior anthropologist Vexry of the Galactic Cultural Preservation Society adjusted her sensory nodes as she reviewed the latest reports. After 3 standard cycles of studying human cultural influence on galactic civilization, she still couldn't believe what she was seeing. "This has to be a mistake," she murmured, her crystalline form flickering with concern. "An entire hive mind species cannot just start a band." But the evidence was irrefutable. The collective consciousness of Proxima Centauri, a species that had spent millennia in perfect unified thought, had splintered into what humans called artistic differences. They were currently on tour across the galaxy, performing what they called psychedelic space jazz. "Show me the cultural contamination spread patterns," she instructed her eye assistant. The holographic display filled with streams of data, each representing the flow of human cultural elements through galactic society. It was unlike anything in the Society's archives. Most species' cultures spread gradually, mixing and blending over centuries. Human culture wasn't spreading. It was going viral. "The Xlaxian Empire has declared Casual Friday a religious holiday," her assistant reported. "The silicon mines of Ta City have started a reality show. And the warrior clans of Antares are posting food blogs." Vexry's crystalline structure vibrated with disbelief. The warrior clans of Antares had maintained their stoic martial culture for 50,000 years. Now they were arguing about plating techniques and posting meal prep videos. "What about the containment protocols?" Ineffective, senior anthropologist. "The humans aren't forcing their culture on anyone. They're just sharing it. Other species are voluntarily adopting it. The Rigelian philosophers have started something called philosophy Twitch streams." The display showed a renowned Rigelian sage, known for spending centuries in silent contemplation, now hosting interactive discussions about the nature of existence while playing something called Minecraft. "It gets worse," her assistant continued. "The mechanical hierarchy has started producing memes." The mechanical hierarchy. the ones who communicate exclusively in pure mathematics. Yes, they've discovered something called deep-fried memes and have declared them a superior form of communication. They're calling it peak comedy. Vexry watched as example after example filled her display. The ethereal chorus of Vega, beings of pure energy and thought, had become obsessed with human pop music and were now releasing remix albums. The ancient guardians of Arcturus had started a cooking channel specializing in fusion cuisine. How are they doing this? She wondered aloud. Every species we've encountered has had some form of entertainment, art, or cultural expression. Why is human culture so infectious? Analysis suggests it's their approach to culture itself, her assistant offered. Humans don't treat culture as something to be preserved. They treat it as something to be played with. They remix, reshape, and reimagine everything they encounter. The evidence was everywhere. Human cultural elements weren't replacing other species' cultures. They were being incorporated, transformed, and sent back out in new forms. The Hive Mind Band wasn't just playing human music. They were creating an entirely new genre that combined their psychic harmonies with earth jazz. Senior anthropologist, her assistant interrupted, "We're receiving an unusual request. The Galactic Cultural Preservation Society has been invited to participate in something called a TED Talk." What's a TED Talk? Apparently, it's a human format for sharing ideas. They want us to present our research on cultural contamination patterns. They're calling it the Mimetic Evolution of Interstellar Society, a cross-species study in cultural viral marketing. Vexry considered the invitation. The old her would have refused, citing the need to maintain academic distance and objectivity. But she had been studying human culture long enough to recognize an opportunity when she saw one. Accept the invitation, she decided, and see if we can get the Proxima Centauri band to play at the afterparty. As she began preparing her presentation, Vexry realized she had become part of the very phenomenon she was studying. Her research paper would probably end up as a viral video, shared across the galaxy, remixed, and memed into new forms of expression. And somewhere on Earth, a social media algorithm noted the trend and began suggesting academic research. Greatest hits compilations to users across the galaxy. The Galactic Cultural Preservation Society would never be the same, and neither would the galaxy. Cultural contamination had become cultural cross-pollination, and the resulting hybrid was more vibrant than anyone could have predicted. The humans hadn't just shared their culture, they had taught the galaxy how to play with culture itself. And that, Vexry realized, was perhaps their greatest contribution of all. The Council's decision. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 1,000 species gathered for what might be the most important session in recent history. The topic: humanity's impact on galactic civilization. Supreme Counselor Genva, an ancient being of pure thought and energy, materialized at the central podium. Their form shimmered with the collected wisdom of millennia as they surveyed the assembled delegates. "We are here," Genva began, their thoughts resonating through the chamber, "to address what some have called the human question." The chamber's quantum displays came to life, showing a cascade of data. Earth appeared at the center, surrounded by webs of influence that stretched across the galaxy. Trade routes reimagined through human economics, communication networks transformed by their social media, and cultural exchanges that defied all previous models of species interaction. In just one galactic standard year, Genva continued, humans have fundamentally altered how our civilization functions. They solved the Caraxian paradox through a pizza debate. They turned a military blockade into a financial product. They taught a hive mind to appreciate jazz. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. A delegation of Silicon Minds was live-streaming the session while adding commentary through something they called a reaction cam. The warrior clans of Antares were running a prediction market on the Council's decision. The traditional response would be to contain this disruption, Genva noted. To establish protocols, set boundaries, create regulations. The chamber grew quiet. This was the expected approach. The Galactic Council had spent eons carefully managing the development of civilization through careful rules and guidelines. However, Genva's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. The humans have already submitted 3,042 proposals for how such regulations might be optimized, gamified, or turned into reality shows. A holographic display showed the latest human submission, a proposal to turn the council itself into an interactive democracy platform with live voting, community challenges, and something called space governance memes. We face an unprecedented situation, Genva continued. A species that doesn't just adapt to systems, they transform them. They don't just participate in civilization, they remix it. And perhaps most importantly, they make it fun. The chamber's displays showed scenes from across the galaxy, ethereal beings competing in human game shows, ancient warrior races becoming social media influencers, AI collectives running poetry slams. The galaxy hadn't just adopted human culture, it had evolved into something entirely new. Therefore, Genva announced, their form expanding with the gravity of the moment. The Council has reached a decision that may be unprecedented in our history. The chamber grew so quiet that you could hear the quantum fluctuations in the space-time fabric. We will not contain humanity. We will not regulate them. Instead, we will do something far more radical. We will learn from them. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Silicon Mines stream briefly crashed from the spike in viewer reactions. From this day forward, the Galactic Council declares a new age of civilization. No longer will we simply preserve and protect. We will create and innovate. We will take risks. We will embrace change. We will. Genva paused, consulting their notes. As the humans say, shake things up. The announcement triggered an immediate response. The Hive Mind Band started an impromptu concert in the chamber's acoustic space. The warrior clan's prediction market exploded with activity. 3 different species began planning a fusion restaurant in the council's dining sector. But most importantly, Genva concluded, their form now pulsing with multiple colors in what appeared to be an attempt at a light show. We will remember the lesson humanity has taught us, that civilization isn't a structure to be maintained, but a story to be continually rewritten. Together. As the chamber erupted in what could only be described as a spontaneous interstellar party, Genva received their first notification from their newly created social media account. It was a message from Earth, a simple meme of a cat with the caption, "Welcome to the party." And somewhere in the digital networks that connected the galaxy, countless algorithms noted the Council's decision and began suggesting content about historic moments in galactic democracy, top 10 Council session remixes, and how to party like a Supreme Counselor. The age of careful regulation was over. The age of creative chaos had begun. And somehow, impossibly, it all seemed to make perfect sense. The humans hadn't just joined galactic civilization. They had shown the galaxy how to reinvent itself. And that, perhaps, was the greatest unspoken rule of all. When humans show up, change isn't just inevitable, it's irresistible.